After his maid failed to appear, the Mafia boss went in person and discovered the whole truth. Lights flickered from lanterns hanging along the old cobblestone lanes, casting shadows that stretched and twisted into shapes that felt almost alive. At the edge of this city, where power whispered through every alley and every door behind polished wood, lived Lucian Drax, a man whose name carried fear, respect, and an unspoken sense of inevitability. He was a mafia boss, known for his calculated mind and unyielding control. Nothing escaped him and nothing went unnoticed, except, apparently, this. Lucian was accustomed to everything happening according to his plan. He knew where every piece of his empire was, every secret of his city, every person who served him. His life ran like clockwork, precise and absolute. Yet that morning, when he arrived at his office to review the day's arrangements, he was told a small but important detail had gone wrong. "Sir," the young messenger said, bowing slightly, "the maid, Elijah, did not appear today." Lucian's sharp eyes narrowed. Elijah was no ordinary maid. She had served his household for years, handling tasks that were both delicate and personal. She managed not just the mansion but certain secrets within it, letters, documents, and things he could not allow anyone else to touch. To him, she was reliable, quiet, almost invisible, but today she had vanished. He leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. Silence filled the office for a moment, the ticking of the clock seeming unusually loud. "Send someone to check on her," he said, his voice low, even, "and report to me immediately." "Yes, sir," the messenger replied, but there was hesitation in his step. Lucian noticed it but did not comment. Hesitation, fear, and uncertainty were luxuries he could not afford. Hours passed. The sun had begun to lower in the sky, painting the city with a warm, golden light, but still, no word came from Elijah's estate. Lucian's impatience grew, not because of lost time or duty, but because something in him, a part he had long ignored, stirred with unease. Finally, he stood. His presence alone demanded attention, and even his closest aides flinched slightly as he spoke. "I will go myself." The decision startled many who heard it. Lucian Drax did not often leave the safety and control of his offices to walk into the unknown. But something told him that this was different. The mansion where Elijah lived was far from the city center, nestled on a hill surrounded by old trees that swayed in the evening breeze. As Lucian approached, he noted how the air changed. The scent of smoke, ash, and roses mingled, an odd combination that set his instincts on edge. The gates, usually closed with a soft click, hung open. A faint chill brushed his face as he passed through them, the shadows of the trees reaching out like long fingers. Inside, the house was silent. Too silent. Footsteps echoed unnaturally on the polished floors as Lucian moved from room to room. Furniture sat undisturbed, dust motes dancing in the beams of light from the windows. Yet something felt off. On a table in the dining hall, he found a cup of tea still warm, a chair pushed back as though someone had been sitting there just moments ago. And then in the parlor, a small silver locket caught his eye. It lay open, revealing a delicate miniature portrait of Elijah. Lucian bent over it, and a cold wind brushed his face from somewhere unseen, though the windows were shut. The locket was warm in his hand. "Elijah," he whispered, a word that rarely passed his lips except in necessity. The mansion seemed to respond. Shadows shifted, walls groaning as if the house itself were alive. A faint whisper came, curling around his ears. "You should not have come, but now that you are here, everything begins." Lucian froze. His mind, usually sharp and untouchable, raced. He had encountered many threats in his life, rival families, traitors, even assassins. But this felt different. Dangerous, yes, but with a subtle, almost intimate menace. He moved forward, drawn by instinct and the faint trace of magic he could sense but could not name. In the hallway, he saw signs of struggle, a knocked-over chair, scratches along the wooden floor. Yet there were no footprints leading away. It was as if someone had vanished into thin air. Finally, he reached the stairs leading to the upper floors. Each step echoed in the empty house. Lucian's hand brushed along the banister, his other resting lightly on the hilt of a dagger he always carried, more out of habit than necessity. He paused at the top, sensing the air shift. The room at the end of the hall was Elijah's. He could see the faint glow of candlelight flickering through the window. As he approached, the door creaked open, revealing a room untouched, almost serene. A bed neatly made, personal items in place, nothing to suggest anyone had been here at all. Yet he felt it, a presence, a heartbeat almost not there, a warmth that was not entirely natural. He stepped forward, and then the locket in his hand burned slightly, as though reacting to something unseen. The whispers returned, now clearer, echoing off the walls. The bloodline remembers, the choice must be made. The darkness waits. Lucian's heart, which had long beaten with the steady rhythm of control and calculation, skipped. For the first time in years, he felt unmoored, a tug of fear mixed with concern for someone else, someone who had never demanded his attention but had quietly earned his trust. He turned abruptly as the sound of movement came from the corner of the room. Shadows coiled and shifted, forming shapes that seemed almost human. Lucian's hand tightened on his dagger. A figure appeared, a fleeting shadow of a woman with hair like spun midnight, eyes glowing faintly, full of fear and defiance. "Elijah?" he asked, his voice steady, though the silence made it sound hollow. The figure did not respond, only stepping back into the shadows. And then, like a mist dissolving under sunlight, she vanished. Lucian's jaw tightened. He had faced murderers, traitors, and men who would see him dead without thought. But this was a puzzle beyond his usual power. A person disappearing in front of him, leaving only whispers, warmth, and an empty room. He clenched the locket in his hand, feeling its subtle pulse like a heartbeat. He realized something then. Elijah was not just missing. She was hiding or being hidden by forces far older and darker than any street-level power he had dealt with. The thought struck him hard. In the silence of the mansion, with the evening sun falling into long shadows, Lucian felt the first genuine shiver of uncertainty he had known in decades. Yet, as always, fear was not enough to stop him. Lucian Drax was a man of action. He would not wait for answers to come. He would find her, and whatever it took, he would uncover the truth. As he left the room, the locket still warm in his palm, he could hear the faint whisper one last time. "You are too late, yet everything begins now." Outside, the wind carried the scent of roses and ash down the hill, brushing against Lucian's face like a reminder that the world he knew was only half of reality. Beyond the city's streets, beyond the reach of his Mafia empire, lay something older, darker, and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. And at the heart of it was Elijah. The night deepened around him, thick and full of unseen eyes. Lucian's eyes narrowed. He would go deeper, beyond the city, beyond the streets, beyond the boundaries of fear itself. Because someone had crossed the line, and that someone was worth finding, whatever the cost. And as he turned his back on the mansion and walked into the gathering darkness, the first stars appearing in the sky seemed to flicker in warning or perhaps in welcome. He could not yet know. But one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The city lights behind him faded as Lucian Drax descended the winding road from Elijah's mansion. Mist clung to the hilltop, curling around his boots as he walked with measured steps. Every instinct in him told him that the world he knew, the world of control, fear, and absolute power, was shifting. Elijah's disappearance was not a simple matter of running away. Something far older, far darker was at play. He paused at the edge of a forest bordering the mansion's property. The trees loomed tall, their branches twisting like ancient hands reaching for the sky. Lucian sensed a faint pulse in the air, subtle yet insistent, like the heartbeat of the land itself. He inhaled deeply, a rare unease settling over him. The path he followed was hidden, worn only by those who knew it well, or by magic. Shadows deepened as he moved further into the forest. And then, almost imperceptibly, he felt it, a hum of energy beneath his feet, rising from the earth. A doorway, hidden among the roots of the oldest tree, revealed itself as he approached. Lucian paused. This was no ordinary place. He had walked through battlefields, seen betrayal, and survived countless threats, but the air here felt alive, aware. It whispered to him in voices he could not yet understand. He placed a hand on the gnarled bark of the tree, and after a moment of hesitation, stepped through. The world shifted. What had seemed like a forest gave way to a narrow passage descending into darkness. The walls were carved with symbols he did not recognize, glowing faintly in the dim light. It smelled of earth, dust, and something faintly sweet, almost floral. Lucian drew his dagger, the metal glinting even in the low light. At the bottom of the stairs, a chamber opened, a cavern beneath the earth, its ceiling high and arched like the halls of an ancient cathedral. Candles floated along the walls, burning without flame, casting an ethereal glow over the room. And there in the center stood a figure, Elijah. She looked smaller than he remembered, though her presence filled the chamber. Her eyes, wide and filled with fear, were the deepest shade of midnight. Dark curls framed her face, and her hands trembled as if holding herself together. She was not hiding, yet she was guarding something. A faint aura shimmered around her, almost invisible, but Lucian could feel it pressing against his senses. "Elijah," he said softly, lowering the dagger, "it's me. You're safe for now." She shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't understand. You shouldn't be here. You don't know what you've stepped into." Lucian stepped closer, his gaze steady. "I have faced men who would see me dead without thought. Whatever this is, I will face it too, but I will not leave you alone." Her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and terror. "It's not just me, it's a curse. My family, my bloodline," she faltered, unable to finish. Lucian waited. He had always demanded truth, and now he needed it more than ever. Elijah took a deep breath. "Centuries ago, my ancestor, she angered a queen. A queen who ruled over life, death, and the unseen forces of this world. In her anger, she cursed my family, every descendant. Anyone who forms a deep bond with a person of power risks losing themselves to darkness. They lose their soul to the curse." Lucian listened, silent. He had heard of curses and old magic, but he had always dismissed such tales as superstition. Yet now, standing in this underground chamber, feeling the pulse of her energy, he could not. The air itself seemed to hum with truth. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. "I tried," Elijah said, tears threatening to fall. "I've kept it hidden because I feared what would happen. I didn't want you involved. I didn't want anyone involved. The moment you touch my life, it could destroy you." Lucian's hand brushed hers. It was a gentle touch, cautious but firm. "If this is true, then it's not a reason to hide. It's a reason to fight." Elijah flinched at his words, then looked at him. For a moment, the fear in her eyes mixed with something else, curiosity, hope, and a silent plea for trust. "You don't understand," she said. "The curse, it's alive, it waits. It reacts to emotions, to desires, to choices. The closer you are to me, the more it grows. It can twist your mind, your body, your very being. And if I fail, you could be lost too." Lucian's jaw tightened. "Then I will face it alongside you. I will not abandon you, Elijah. Not now, not ever." A tremor shook the chamber, and the candles flickered violently. Shadows stretched and twisted along the walls, forming shapes that seemed almost human. Lucian's eyes scanned the room, dagger ready, but nothing moved except the shadows. Elijah stepped forward, her hands raised slightly, as if to hold the shadows at bay. "It's the queen," she whispered. "The spirit of the cursed queen still lingers. She watches, she judges. And she punishes." Lucian took a steadying breath. "Then we will face her together." Suddenly, the air thickened. A cold wind swept through the chamber, carrying a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "If you claim her, you claim doom." Lucian felt the weight of the words in his chest. Doom was a word he had never feared. Yet now, standing before the pulse of something ancient, he felt it like a tangible force pressing against his chest. Elijah's fingers brushed against his hand again, and this time he felt her power, the subtle energy that the curse carried, dangerous yet beautiful. A warmth and a chill at once, tugging at him in ways he could not name. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked, voice trembling. He nodded. "I feel it, and I feel that I cannot turn away." The chamber seemed to respond to their union, the shadows twisting tighter, almost in anticipation. Lucian realized then that the curse was not only Elijah's burden, it was a test, a challenge, a force that reacted to choices, emotions, and connections. The bond they had, fragile and new, already mattered to it. "Listen to me," Elijah said, taking a step back. "I have been hiding, resisting, controlling myself for years. If I let the power rise, if I allow myself to feel freely, the curse could take me. And it could take you too." Lucian's gaze softened. "Then we find another way, together." For a long moment silence fell. Only the faint hum of the chamber, the subtle beat of the locket she carried around her neck, and the whispers of shadows filled the space. Then, suddenly, the ground beneath them shook. A fissure opened in the stone floor, emitting a dim, black smoke. The shadows gathered, coiling toward the center where Lucian and Elijah stood. A shape emerged, tall, regal, and terrifyingly beautiful. The spirit of the cursed queen manifested, her eyes like liquid silver, cold and endless. "You dare touch what is mine," the queen's voice thundered, echoing off the cavern walls. "You dare bring a mortal into my design." Lucian stepped forward, placing himself between the queen and Elijah. "She is not yours to claim," he said, voice steady, though his heart pounded in a way unfamiliar to him. The queen laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "She is mine. All of her bloodline is mine. And you are nothing but a man who thinks he can defy fate." Elijah's hand brushed against Lucian's, and she felt his warmth, his resolve. For the first time, she let a sliver of trust and connection rise within her, and the curse reacted. Shadows flared, the chamber vibrating as though the very air resented this defiance. "You cannot fight what is ancient," the queen said. "You cannot save her without losing yourself. Choose or watch everything burn." Lucian's eyes met Elijah's. He saw fear, doubt, but also strength. He saw the courage she had carried alone for years against a darkness most could not imagine, and he made his choice. "I will not choose fear," he said quietly. "I will choose her. I will choose both of us. Whatever comes, we face it together." The chamber seemed to pause, holding its breath. The shadows hesitated. The queen's eyes narrowed as though surprised by this mortal's resolve. Elijah felt the pull of her power, the curse threatening to claim her, threatening to take Lucian with it. And yet, for the first time in years, she did not recoil. Instead, she reached out, allowing herself to connect with him, letting her fear and her hope intertwine. The queen's voice softened, almost a hiss as the shadows writhed. "Very well," she said. "The path is set. But beware, the curse does not forgive weakness. And neither do I." Lucian felt a strange calm settle over him. The danger was not gone, it had only shifted, but for the first time he felt a sense of purpose beyond power or control. The threat of doom remained, but now it was a challenge they would face together. Elijah exhaled, a small, trembling smile forming. "Then we begin." And as the two of them stood in the heart of the underground chamber, shadows curling around them, the locket in Elijah's hand glowed brighter. It was a symbol of the connection they had forged, fragile yet defiant, a bond that even ancient curses could not easily break. Outside, the night remained thick and quiet, but beneath the city, in a world of shadows, whispers, and power older than kings, two people had chosen to stand together, against fate, against darkness, against everything that sought to pull them apart. The story was only beginning. The city above slept, unaware of the forces stirring beneath its streets. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of smoke and roses. Lucian Drax returned from the underground chamber, his mind tangled with thoughts of curses, spirits, and Elijah's mysterious power. He had faced enemies, betrayal, and death countless times, but the shadow of an ancient queen's curse was unlike anything he had known. Elijah followed quietly, her steps hesitant yet purposeful. She carried the weight of her family's legacy in every movement. Though the queen's spirit had withdrawn for now, its warning lingered in her mind. Weakness will not be forgiven. Every heartbeat reminded her of the risk. Every breath carried the weight of the choices she had yet to make. The mansion where Lucian lived in the city felt different as he entered. Its polished floors and dimly lit corridors, usually symbols of his absolute control, now seemed fragile, as if any moment they might crumble under the pressure of the supernatural forces he had unleashed. Lucian closed the door behind them, the sound echoing through the silent halls. "You must tell me everything," he said firmly, his eyes fixed on her. "No half-truths, no hiding. I cannot protect you if I do not understand." Elijah nodded, sitting on the edge of a velvet chair. "There is more than the curse itself," she said softly. "There are others, those who would use my bloodline, people in the city who would kill to harness the power. And now you are involved, because I cannot hide anymore." Lucian's jaw tightened. Power had always been his world, but Elijah's words reminded him of the fragility beneath even the strongest empires. "Then we face them together," he said. "Tell me who they are." She hesitated, fear flashing in her eyes. "The families they have always watched, waiting for a chance. My ancestors' curse gave them reason to hope, and now with me near you the balance shifts. I can feel it. They will come." Lucian's mind raced. The world of the Mafia was ruthless, yes, but the supernatural elements Elijah carried added stakes he could not have imagined. He had fought for loyalty, money, control, but protecting someone he cared about, someone whose life was intertwined with magic and fate, that was new. That was dangerous, that was personal. The first sign came as a knock at the mansion door, faint but deliberate. Lucian's hand rested on the hilt of a dagger, his eyes narrowing. "Stay here," he said quietly. "Do not move." Elijah shook her head. Stay," he repeated, firm. There was no room for debate. Lucian opened the door, stepping into the moonlit corridor. A figure stood there, cloaked in black, face hidden beneath the hood. The visitor spoke in a calm, measured voice. "Lucian Drax, I have come with a warning. The bloodline you protect, it has value, and danger follows it. You should let her go." Lucian's gaze did not waver. "I do not negotiate over people's lives. Leave or face the consequences." The figure laughed softly. "Consequences, indeed. You may think you are ready for what is coming, but no mortal is ready to face ancient power." Before Lucian could respond, the figure vanished into the night, leaving behind only a faint scent of iron and smoke. He returned inside, closing the door with a hard click. Elijah's eyes met his, filled with concern. "Who was that?" she asked. "Someone who knows what is at stake," Lucian replied, "and someone who underestimates me. You are not leaving my side." Elijah exhaled slowly. "I've tried to stay hidden my whole life, and now I am part of your world, part of danger I cannot escape." "You are not alone," Lucian said firmly. His hand brushed hers, a subtle but grounding touch. "Whatever comes, we face it together." The next days were filled with tension. Lucian worked as usual, managing his empire, yet his attention was divided. Every meeting, every decision, was tinged with awareness of what Elijah carried with her. He noticed subtle signs, the way her eyes flickered when danger approached, how her hands trembled when shadows lengthened, how the faint pulse of magic seemed to follow her like a living thread. Elijah, for her part, struggled with fear and desire. Her connection to Lucian was dangerous, yet undeniable. Every time she saw him, her heart raced, a warmth spreading through her chest even as the curse warned her of its power. She had spent years controlling herself, hiding from emotions and power alike, but now the boundaries she had built were crumbling. One evening, as they walked through the city streets, the tension escalated. A rival family had heard rumors about Elijah's abilities and attempted to kidnap her. Lucian anticipated their move, intercepting them before they could act. The confrontation was silent, precise. Lucian's presence alone commanded fear, but the true force lay in the subtle influence of Elijah's emerging power. Shadows seemed to follow her gestures, bending the air, unsettling their attackers. In moments, the threat was neutralized, the rivals fleeing into the night. Lucian stood close to Elijah afterward, his hand resting on her shoulder. "Do you see?" he asked. "You are stronger than you know, but power without control can be dangerous for you and for those around you." Elijah nodded, her gaze downcast. "I have lived my whole life fearing what I might become, and now it is stronger than I imagined, and yet I do not want to run anymore." Lucian looked at her, something unspoken passing between them, a mix of admiration, protectiveness, and a dawning sense of feeling that went beyond duty. He had controlled everything, every person, every action, but Elijah was different. She demanded more than control. She demanded trust, patience, and courage. The nights grew longer, the tension between them growing with each passing hour. And yet, every moment was punctuated by the lingering threat of the curse. Shadows whispered in corners of the mansion, the locket around Elijah's neck glowing faintly at times of danger, and the queen's presence loomed like a watchful eye. One night, as they sat in the library, Elijah spoke quietly. "I can feel the curse reacting to us, to our bond. It is testing me, testing us." Lucian leaned back, his fingers drumming against the arm of the chair. "Then we must be ready. You will not face it alone, and I will not allow it to harm you." Elijah looked at him, uncertainty and hope mingling in her eyes. "But what if I fail? What if it consumes me?" Lucian's gaze softened. "Then we fight it together. We are stronger together than apart." Days later, a new threat arrived. A hidden enemy, allied with the shadows that watched Elijah's bloodline, infiltrated the city. Their goal was to capture her, to use her power for their own gain. Lucian anticipated their moves, but the enemy's cunning was unlike anything he had encountered. During a confrontation in an abandoned warehouse, Lucian fought with precision, using both his skill and knowledge of the city. But the moment came when he was outnumbered, surrounded by figures who knew the weaknesses of his empire. Elijah, watching from the shadows, felt the curse stir within her. Fear and desperation intertwined with power she had long suppressed. She stepped forward, channeling her energy, not fully understanding how, only that it was necessary to protect Lucian. Shadows moved at her command, forming barriers and illusions, driving the attackers back. Lucian noticed the shift, the subtle yet undeniable display of power. His heart pounded not from fear but from awe. She was no longer just a servant, no longer just someone to protect. She was a force to be reckoned with. The battle ended with silence, the attackers retreating, leaving Lucian and Elijah standing amidst the debris. He reached for her hand, steadying her. "You did well," he said softly. Elijah shook her head, a mixture of relief and guilt on her face. "I had to, I couldn't let them hurt you, but I feel different. The power, it frightens me." Lucian's gaze softened. "Then let it guide you, not control you, and let me guide you when you need it." The connection between them deepened, forged in danger and trust. Yet the Queen's voice echoed faintly in their minds, a reminder of the trials still ahead. Weakness will not be forgiven. Choices will come, and sacrifices will be demanded. Lucian and Elijah realized that the city, the Mafia power, and the curse were intertwined. Every choice had consequences, every action rippled outward. And now, their bond had placed them at the center of a storm older than the city itself. As dawn approached, they stood on the mansion's balcony looking out over the sleeping city. Lucian's hand brushed against hers, a simple gesture of connection and promise. "We are ready," he said quietly, though uncertainty lingered in his voice. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Elijah nodded, the locket glowing faintly against her chest. Together, she whispered. And as the first light of day touched the city, a distant shadow moved across the rooftops, a reminder that the Queen's curse was far from gone and the real test had yet to come. The city was quiet that night, though the silence felt unnatural. A thin mist clung to the streets, drifting like a memory of forgotten secrets. From the balcony of the mansion, Lucian Drax surveyed his domain, his sharp eyes scanning every shadow. He had faced enemies, curses, and forces beyond human comprehension, but now, standing beside Elijah, he felt the weight of something far heavier: choice. Elijah stood near him, the faint glow of her locket illuminating her pale face. The past days had changed her, shaped her. She was no longer the quiet maid, the hidden shadow in the corners of the mansion. She was powerful, aware, and ready, yet uncertain of how far she could trust her own strength. "You know," Lucian said quietly, his voice cutting through the soft night, "I have controlled everything in my life. Every street, every person, every secret. And yet, nothing I've controlled feels as uncertain as this." Elijah looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the pale moonlight. "I've always lived with uncertainty," she admitted. "The curse has been with my family for centuries. Every choice, every connection, it could destroy everything." Lucian's hand brushed hers, a grounding touch in the midst of looming danger. "Then we face it together. Whatever comes, we will endure it together." The air shifted suddenly. Shadows deepened along the balcony walls, twisting and coiling. A faint, cold laughter echoed in the night, the voice of the cursed queen, still watching, still waiting. "You dare defy me," the queen's voice hissed. "You dare form bonds that defy fate. The mortal shall fall and the bloodline shall obey." Lucian stepped forward, his eyes hard, his voice unwavering. "We do not fear you, we face you, and we will not let you control her life nor ours." Elijah's pulse quickened. The power within her stirred, responding to the danger and to the strength she felt in Lucian. For the first time, she allowed herself to trust it, to let her bond with him guide her. The locket glowed brighter, sending a warmth through her chest. "Then it begins," the queen said, her voice echoing through the city like wind through empty halls. "The test. The final reckoning." The ground trembled beneath them and the balcony seemed to stretch into a void of shadows. Lucian reached for Elijah's hand, holding it firmly. "No matter what happens," he said, "we face it as one." The queen's form materialized before them, shimmering with silver and darkness. Her eyes glimmered like ice, unyielding and eternal. "The mortal has courage, I see," she said, her voice soft yet terrifying. "But courage alone will not save him or her. Sacrifice must come. Choice must be made." Lucian's jaw tightened. "Then tell me what must be done." The queen's eyes swept over them, cold and piercing. "To break the curse, to survive the darkness, one must surrender control. One must risk all that is dear. Only then will the bloodline be free." Elijah trembled. I cannot," she whispered. "If I use my full power, it could consume me, and I cannot let it hurt him." Lucian's gaze softened. "Then let me help you. We will share this burden. Together we are stronger than the curse. Together we can overcome it." The queen's laughter echoed again. "Do you understand, mortal? The path you choose will determine her fate and yours. Weakness cannot be forgiven." Lucian and Elijah exchanged a long look. Fear pressed against them, but beneath it was something else: trust, courage, and the bond they had formed in the shadows of the city, in danger, in struggle. "Then we begin," Lucian said, stepping closer to Elijah. "Whatever the curse demands, we face it together." Elijah nodded. She closed her eyes, feeling the power inside her rise. It was like a river, wild and untamed, pushing against the limits she had set for herself. The locket glowed brighter, and the shadows around them seemed to pulse in response. "Remember," Lucian whispered, "I am with you. Every step, every choice, no matter what." The queen's voice rang out low and full of threat. "The test is not just power, it is choice. It is sacrifice. You may save yourself or you may save each other. Only one path will lead to freedom. The chamber of night and shadow seemed to collapse inward, leaving them standing on a platform of stone, suspended above darkness. Elijah felt the pull of the curse stronger than ever, threatening to overwhelm her. And yet she felt Lucian's presence beside her, steady and unyielding. "You can do this," Lucian said, his hand brushing hers. "I trust you. I believe in you." Elijah took a deep breath. She allowed herself to feel the fear, the hope, the power, and the bond. She let the energy flow through her, not as a weapon but as a force of protection, of love, and of courage. The queen's figure flickered, her eyes narrowing. "Impressive," she said, "but the ultimate sacrifice has not yet been made. The mortal must give something of equal value, or the bloodline is lost." Lucian stepped forward, placing himself fully in the flow of the curse's energy. "I offer myself," he said firmly. "If my power, my life, my soul is needed to protect her, then so be it." "The choice is mine." Elijah's eyes widened. "No, Lucian, I cannot." "You can," he said quietly. "We are one in this together." The queen's eyes narrowed, silver light swirling around her. "A mortal who offers his soul for another, rare, but courage alone is not enough. The final act must be mutual. Both must face the darkness and surrender control willingly." Elijah nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. She reached out, placing her hand in Lucian's. "Then we face it together. No more fear, no more hiding. Whatever comes, we endure it together." The shadows surged around them, rising like a tidal wave. The energy of the curse pressed against their minds, their bodies, their hearts. And yet they held on to each other, their bond stronger than the darkness that sought to consume them. Elijah felt the energy inside her calm, guided by Lucian's presence. Lucian felt the curse trying to take hold of his resolve, his power, his control. But Elijah's trust gave him strength. They became a single force, standing against the ancient power that had haunted her family for centuries. The queen's form twisted in anger, the shadows lashing out. "No mortal can defy me," she shouted. Lucian's voice was calm, firm. "We are not defying, we are choosing together. That is the power you cannot take." The shadows recoiled, the queen's form flickering like a candle in wind. Elijah raised her hands, the locket glowing brighter than ever. She let herself trust fully, channeling her energy not in fear but in love and courage. The queen's voice softened, almost reluctantly. "You have chosen well. But remember, mortal and magi power comes with responsibility. The bond you have formed is rare and fragile. Cherish it, or it will be lost." And then, slowly, the shadows dissipated, the darkness retreating into the corners of the world. The curse had been lifted, the queen's test complete, and the city above returned to quiet, peaceful night. Lucian and Elijah stood together, trembling, exhausted, yet alive. The bond between them was unbroken, stronger than ever, forged in courage, sacrifice, and trust. Lucian lowered his hand from hers, his eyes softening. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. Elijah nodded, a smile forming despite the exhaustion. "I am because of you. We did this together." Lucian's lips curved in a rare, genuine smile. "Together," he repeated. The dawn approached slowly, painting the sky with shades of gold and rose. The city beneath them stirred, unaware of the ancient power that had been challenged and overcome. And yet Lucian and Elijah knew. They had faced darkness and emerged not only unbroken, but transformed. They descended from the mansion balcony, hands entwined, stepping into a world where danger still existed, but where hope, trust, and love had triumphed. The curse was gone, the queen's presence diminished, and the city, like them, was ready to continue, stronger and wiser. As they walked through the quiet streets, Elijah's locket glimmered softly, a symbol not just of power but of courage, choice, and connection. Lucian's eyes, sharp as ever, softened as he looked at her. "No more hiding," he said, his voice gentle. "No more fear. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Elijah nodded, smiling fully now. "Together." And as the first light of day bathed the city in warmth, shadows retreated and the world seemed for a moment entirely theirs. They had faced ancient power, danger, and the weight of history, and emerged stronger, bound not by fear but by trust, courage, and love. The story was no longer about curses or fear. It was about choice, redemption, and transformation. And for Lucian, Drax, and Elijah, the future, uncertain, challenging, and bright, lay before them together.